Your audio's not there. Dave, you've got no audio. Right, okay. What's going on? Can you hear me, Tyson? Right, so... Well, it is called Technically Trek, and we're obviously having technical issues. So, welcome to Technically Trek, everyone. Dave's going to sort his microphone out at some point. I'm going to bring on Tyson. I don't know how to do this. Oh, Tyson,
there we go.
Are you audible? Yay, we can hear you. Right?
Okay. Dave, I don't know what's going on, but we cannot hear you. I was doing sign language with Katie in the back.
And we understood each other, even though yours is ASL and mine's BSL. So, you know, at least we've got some communication going there.
Right.
How are you, Tyson?
I am doing only okay, and I'll explain what only okay means. I was in this chair last night, and I had it turned, and I was leaning back, and I had my feet up on the bed right here. And Mike and I were having a little foot war, and then whoop, I fell over backwards and smacked my head and my back.
And you didn't get that on video.
Huh?
You didn't get that on video.
No.
How rude.
Thankfully, no. 2 Vicodins later, I think I'm healing. But yeah, that was not.
I'm sorry. I only
No.
It's out of love.
No, it's fun. I would have laughed at it if I would have seen it. And like I said, I'm healing, but it was probably.
Callie's heard my voice.
Yes, it was probably the most embarrassing thing of my life. Glad it wasn't on video, right, Cat? By the way, the cat laughed her ass off at me. Bad kitty.
Of course. Have you got your audio sorted out yet, Dave? No, you haven't.
Still can't hear you.
Can you drop out and then come back in? I have no idea what's going on, people, but you know, gotta love technology. I blame the fact that we've just gone into the age of Aquarius. Everything is going all tits up at the moment. You know, I blame the cosmos for anything. You know what I'm like. But yeah, you know, it's right. Dave, are you there with us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay!
We can hear you.
Oh dear, what the hell happened there?
I have no freaking clue. It started when the countdown glitched.
Well, when you left and came back and fixed it, we can hear you now.
Yay.
I have one question, Dave. Have you been whispering sweet nothings to your technology? Because if you haven't, I think you need to.
Yeah, well, it's Monday. Go figure. But as I was trying to say, holy crap, 50 episodes of Technically Trek. Can you believe it?
I know. It's kind of surreal. I mean, don't get me wrong, minus 18 of those episodes, you know.
17.
Because 17. The first 17 episodes were just done on Twitter, on Twitter Spaces. But I can't believe that, you know, I can't believe that we've been running for this long. It's... Yeah.
Angie, welcome.
That's my friend Paige.
Yeah.
She's in England.
Right on. So someone else is an insomniac.
Oh, hell yeah.
I love
at least I know I'm not alone.
In the comments where Phil says, wiggle the plug.
I was wiggling the plug.
No. I was going to say, wait till you're offline before you wiggle the plug. You don't want that on video.
Oh, for fuck's sake, Tyson. We've been live for like 6 minutes and you're already going into the gutter.
Well, he said wiggle the plug.
Oh, that's wiggling the dongle. It was not just a plug, it was the dongle.
Yeah, a lot of naughty monkeys around here. They need space. Anyway.
But hey, it's I got a text from Phil saying he's finishing the episode, so I guess talking about this has kind of help Phil sleep at that time.
All right, so remind us what episode Unexpected is.
Hold
E-
on,
epi-
hold on. I'm wanting to know what I'm getting blamed for now.
Probably getting hooked on the show.
I get blamed for everything. I don't know why. I get blamed for everything, you know. I'm one of the co-host here, you know, and it says here, you know, I may be a captain, but I'm also ditzy.
The Ditzy Witchy Captain.
And you love me for it, so you know.
Of course, we all love you.
But
But
no,
I mean,
I
if you
just want
hear,
to say this is one of my favorite episodes of Enterprise that we're reviewing today, and I think that regardless of what people think about it, I think it's been done very, very well.
yeah, happy birthday to Jeff. He's turning 48
Oh, happy
tomorrow.
birthday! I won't sing because I made it rain earlier, so I won't sing to you. But happy birthday, sweet pea. But no, this is one of my favorite episodes of Enterprise, Unexpected, and regardless of what people think about Enterprise, I absolutely adore this series, and this episode, especially for me, was done really, really well. It was handled quite delicately, even though there was a lot of humor involved. I really love it, and I love Trip as well, because you know, I mean, Trip is like one of my favorite Trek characters, and you know, he was done wrong by the end of it, but we won't go there.
Yeah, but being early in the series to Paul is I just wanted to slap her.
Oh God, that bitch! Oh my God!
I
honestly,
wanted saying that word, and you said it.
Oh God, I so wanted to fucking slap her face. I wanted to slap her with a wet fish. I really did, you know, right across her chops. Honestly, no, the way she was with Trip, I mean, it's hard to believe that, you know, they eventually get together in the end, but Travis, my darling.
Voila. Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Katie.
It's okay. Yeah, you missed out on all my audio issues tonight.
Actually, I was observing. I was actually eating my dinner. I was observing everybody's, you know, banter, even including Tyson's, or I should say, Phil's, you know, the little plug thing. I was watching it.
Wiggle the plug. That's going to be my new thing. Wiggle the plug.
Wiggle the plug. Wiggle the plug. Wiggle the dongle. Wiggle the pussy.
What the hell?
Wiggle the plug. Wiggle the plug. So, yeah, this is the one where Trip gets pregnant.
Yeah.
How fun is that?
Extremely.
You know, I just finished watching it earlier, just a short time ago. Like Phil is finishing up himself, and you know, so Paul has some very good lines in here. I was like, okay, she delivers some really good lines, especially when they was briefing him. They basically said, look, you going over there, be diplomatic, you know, and what did Archer say? You know, be a gentleman. And I was like, okay, everything about this episode, it shows in the beginning at how humans, you know, was figuring out how to interact with other, you know, species they encounter. They were stumbling through the whole thing, like Trip. He was stumbling through the whole thing, but he didn't, you know, for him thinking that he was being, you know, cordial, as you say, or diplomatic about it, you know, his, you know, handling the situation, you know, somebody in the 24th century would be like, yeah, that's not how, you know, you do. It's, you know, and I love the life lesson learned that they show in the Enterprise, because in TOS, you know, they already know how to, you know, handle unknown species and different aliens and stuff. But this was like, a stepping stone. And like, to me, it felt like they was kind of naivete when they was dealing with the Zerillians. And Trip came in, and stuff. But I was generally, pleasant, when I rewatched it, because I haven't seen it in years, but when I rewatched it and I started like, just observing, the little nuance of this particular episode, I was like, yeah, there was a lot of diplomatic blunder that, Trip did that he thought he was doing okay with, but yet, it's like, yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, Trip. I mean, if you think about his whole personality, like, I'm gonna do like a bit of a character profile here, as I do. But with Trip, I mean, he is intelligent. Obviously, is the engineer. Welcome, Zach. But he is very intelligent. Obviously, you've got to be an engineer, but he also kind of, for me, it's like he has a kind of like childlike quality about him when it comes to his curiosity.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why I love Trip so much, because in some ways, and I know this is going to sound really screwed up, but in some ways he kind of reminds me of Data a little bit, because if you think about Data's curiosity and his childlike quality within that, like with that curiosity, Trip is very similar in that sense. He has a very childlike curiosity about new species, new worlds, and he can't hide that, but he does it with a lot more humanity than Data. But it's not often that you find Trek characters with that kind of curiosity and allowing that curiosity to like run away with you and like forget protocol a little bit. But that's where Trip comes undone sometimes, is his curiosity and wanting to explore and experience new things. It can sometimes get him into trouble, as we've seen in this episode. But even though he was like, he said himself in this episode, as soon as he stepped foot on that ship, he was a diplomat, and he wanted to make a good impression. And I think with him, I think it was, he didn't want to insult the species. He didn't want to insult the Zerillians by being like, no, I'm not going to do this.
Hey, Mala.
Hey, darling. Mwah. But I think he was just going along with it, going with the flow, and like being the diplomat and experiencing another culture as well, right? Like with the food and the solid cubed water thing, and Trip is just too much of a gentleman, and he's too nice sometimes. Even though he has got a backbone, when it comes to things like that, he doesn't want to offend. And all right, he was very taken by it, and there was a connection there. But first and foremost, he doesn't like to disappoint. He's a very big people pleaser.
T'Pol said something on the line. The first thing a diplomat does is learn not to stick his finger where they don't belong.
But I think the thing that everyone's overlooking right now is the fact when he first stepped on board the Zerillian ship, he was, I wrote down tripping balls.
Yes.
He was like definitely like out of sorts.
I'm going to be leaving at 6:30, 7:30 your time, Dave, because I'm going to be net control for the San Diego Ham Forum, and I have to prep the script and everything. I'm not just participating like I normally do. I'm going to be net control, so excited about that. So at 6:30, about 15 minutes, I'm going to drop. But really quick, one thing that
15 minutes my time then.
15 minutes your time, right? Okay. One thing that Trip, and I think to a large extent we see this in Enterprise, but Trip is full of human ethics and human morality. And you see that throughout Star Trek, right? Where different aliens have different concepts of right and wrong and morality and whatnot. And Trip tends to apply human morality to a lot of these situations, and it gets him in trouble. And again, to a large extent, the show Enterprise explores, we're just now meeting aliens. We're just now discovering how they think and how they act and what's right and wrong in their cultures. And this was a beautiful example of that, right? You one thing, if we think about UFOs and if aliens are real, we're gonna have to contemplate, what are their views of right and wrong, of morality, of ethics, of
Right.
Even the afterlife. We could have radically different ideas, and what makes ours right or theirs right, or maybe it's right for us. I don't know.
You're right about that, Tyson. That is actually a good way of putting it. It's like, they already have was it the 22nd century, I believe that they're in, or the 22nd century, and they're learning, what we already, aware of the 24th century, how how they handle, diplomacy and stuff. Humanity is pretty new to this. And humanity is stumbling and stuff. I remember in the pilot episode of Enterprise, they went to Rigel, was that Rigel 7, Rigel 6, and Trip saw a lady, an alien mother, doing something to her son, and he was just he felt like, oh my goodness, what is she doing to him? And he kept looking at him.
Oh, like she was choking him, or he couldn't breathe, or something. Yeah.
And so, eventually he said something to her. Paul stepped in and said, you got to learn to objectify other cultures before you interfere. You got to learn when to interfere and when not to interfere. And that's a good way of looking at him, because he always jumping in, like you said, he's applying human values and stuff and everything. And Paul just gave some good advice, saying you got to objectify other cultures before you judge others.
The beta, if you're familiar with the beta fish, I have my little beta fish over here. Betas are very aggressive little fishes, but funny enough, they're able to breathe air and water. They've got this thing that's similar to a lung, and if you look at their mouth, it's kind of upturned, and they can gulp air, and they can actually be in air for a long period of time, and they don't die like a regular fish would. But as fry, when they're really small, they don't have that lung-like aperture. That's something that develops as they get a little older. And in this episode, we see the alien, and she was trying to teach her baby to respirate, to breathe. She would take the mask away, and then she'd put it back, and she'd take it. And it looked like she was intentionally harming or suffocating him. But in reality, and Trip, Paul tells Trip that she's weaning him, to the atmosphere, and that's how they do it. But he thought she was torturing the baby. So you're right. We have to kind of step back, and I think Enterprise does this. Step back and looks and says, we're applying our morality to everything, and this is before the Prime Directive.
Exactly, right there. You nailed it. And in this particular episode too, you saw Trip. Like, there's a lot of little things that you see that he did, and as Katie said, he has a childlike a quality to him when he's just seeing. You see how when they encounter the Klingons, and I just remember watching it, and I was like, how Archer talks to the Klingons, he's trying to rationalize and reason with them, but it's only when T'Pol stepped in and she started speaking like them. It's like they don't have any understanding of how to, engage other species and other cultures and stuff without being like offensive or like, looking weak and stuff and everything. It was pretty impressive to see, one side of this episode where, it was a friendly, first encounter nature with the Xyrillians. But then, this is another encounter they had with the Klingons, and the Klingons, they were not particularly impressed with, the humans again. And you saw them, they fire, like, was that 3 torpedoes? That D7 battlecruiser fired like 2 or 3 torpedoes. And, T'Pol said if they wanted to destroy us, they would have and stuff. But when he was speaking to the Klingon captain would seem very annoyed with Archer. And it's like when if we all know when Klingons speak, they speak very proudly. And she is right about one thing too. They do exaggerate. Klingons do exaggerate. They bluster, they exaggerate, and everything else. But it was really interesting to see how in this episode two different sides of diplomacy that the Enterprise handle and stuff and everything. And the one thing that got me with the technology before you go, Tyson, is they introduced literally a holodeck, a holographic, a holo simulator, a holodeck, or whatever you want to call it. And it's like a precursor to what we already know that the Federation has in, all across, the Alpha and Beta Quadrant and stuff. But it was pretty impressive. And one thing about this episode too, I always wonder about in the holodecks. The holodecks are only, it's a room. It's a big room, but it only goes so much. When they started walking, their perspective started changing. I was like, what? That actually gave a really good detail because I was wondering, you could go in the holodeck, and is it like you're in one place walking, or are you just because you have run into a wall? And I like how, they kind of explain that about like, how their holo simulation and stuff worked in this, because I always wondered before that and everything. But I don't mean to talk too much. Go ahead, Tyson or Dave.
It's all good to say. Honestly, I didn't write many notes on this episode. I don't know if it's because that my mind's in a million directions. I don't know if you guys are picking it up on the microphone, but there's a lot of hammering going on downstairs. I know that Phil can relate to that, but yeah, because they're doing remodeling. They're finally realizing that, yeah, some of the wiring is really effed up in this building. So they're trying to make more space, tearing out. Electrician's going to be out here on Wednesday looking at a lot of the wiring. My apartment, for the most part, is fine, except for the baseboard heat not working, because it turns out that whoever installed them initially didn't do it right.
Of course.
How you can fuck that up is beyond me. It's part of my French, but
especially when you said who did it initially, I'm thinking when I hear initially, I'm thinking like when the building was constructed, when it was brand new. How do you get a brand new building with, it's not even working out of the gate? That's pretty bad.
No,
right.
Well, it's not the manager's unit any longer, but the apartment across the hall from mine, the wiring is so messed up in there. When you adjust the baseboard heat in the bedroom, it dims the lights in the bathroom.
Wow.
That sounds like a fire code waiting to happen.
Right. A lot of what? It sounds kind of like this episode. You know how at the beginning Archer was in the shower, and it's like everything on E deck was going haywire and stuff and everything, and it's like, what's going on? We having some power fluctuation. There's something going on. The gravity plating is offline and stuff, and it was funny seeing Archer, in midair, and then all of a sudden he just dropped his stuff and everything. But it's like, yeah, there's some, some weird fluctuation going on.
You know what it's like? Could you imagine? Shower and somebody flushes the toilet, right?
I know, but could you imagine if the gravity plating went down when you was in the shower with another person? I mean, I'm sorry, but how would that work out? If you're having some like coupley time in the shower and all of a sudden your gravity plating goes awry and then it suddenly comes back down, and I imagine that'd be a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Katie, because that's exactly what I wrote in my notes here. If I can get it to work.
You see, host and co-host in perfect sync.
Grab plate goes awry.
Well, I see Phil is here to take my place.
Hello.
Thank you so much. And
hi, darling.
Great rest of your show.
Love you, Tyson. You'll get my text message.
Right. Oh, yeah. You guys are down there. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Like the Brady Bunch.
There we go. Okay.
Oh, dear.
Phil's lit today.
Oh, good evening, all. I'm what?
You're lit.
I am.
It's like you're bright. You're.
Oh, do you
You're
know?
glowing.
It's either one or the other. Either I turn off these lights and then I look, and then everything just looks like crap. The quality drops like 1,000%, or I end up being overlit. I've got these lights on low too, so I don't know. I tried.
Well, you look good.
Sweet. I'm the co-host, and I don't give a crap about my lighting. I'm gonna have to turn my light off soon because of my migraines. So don't worry about your lighting, sweetie.
I appreciate it. I think I'm just fussy because I do my own lives, and I like it to look really well. I like it to look proper when I do them, and I'm really fussy about it when I do my own.
I don't blame you. I understand
Like I
that.
said,
I really do.
Hammer going on downstairs.
Doing one
Got the dog barking outside, so
I can't hear anything, but I'm partially deaf, so don't take my word for it.
well, I guess the microphone does its job, so yay.
Yeah, a little bit better.
Yay!
Sorry, I shaved before the show, so I got a little bit of that post itch going.
Yeah. Did you watch the episode today, Phil?
I did actually. That was part of the reason why I'm late is to try and finish getting through the episode before I could come in here and join the chat about it. So
okay, I like fresh mind. I like that.
So yeah, I just came off of it because I started to watch it a couple hours ago, and I've just been. It seems every day I'm getting a lot of constant distractions and interruptions, and people calling and texting, and even when I try asking people not to, they still do. So it's been like the last 2.5 hours. I think I've been like trying to get through this episode. So just with so much going on, but we can't hear anything. But yeah, no, I was trying to. It's been ages since I've seen the show, and I haven't like I don't even remember it. I might not have even seen this one. I'm not sure because I know when Enterprise came on, it was very inconsistent what episodes I caught, and it was hard for me to get into this one when it started. So I because also the Klingon. This is like a first season episode, isn't it? It was like season 1.
Yes.
Episode 5. So it's like the fourth episode of the series. If you count the Broken Bow as one episode instead of 2.
Yeah,
right.
It was like a 2-part.
Oh, that's why some would list it as 4 and some listed as 5, as episode 5. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, it is episode 5 because 2-parters are classed as like singular episodes.
Right.
But yeah, it is very early on in the series. But in all honesty, I'm just going to say this right now. And if we lose viewers, I'm really sorry, Dave. But people saying that it goes against canon law for Star Trek that the Klingons are already in it, I really don't give a crap. I don't, because for me, especially the way things are going with all the new Trek that's out. I mean, Strange New World, they are hoping that it runs long enough to basically rewrite TOS. And the amount of inconsistencies that are in TOS, the contradictions from episode to episode. Now, in my personal opinion, because of all the inconsistencies, canon for me is only from Next Gen. Because there was the amount of contradictions within TOS, it doesn't make sense. And like something will happen in an episode, and then like the next season, that episode will be referred back to, and they'll get it all wrong. And it's like, no, it actually happened like this. What the hell are you talking about? So even within that, it is so inconsistent. And this is one of the reasons why I cannot stand TOS and why personally I don't see it as true canon. You know, like it's kind of like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. When that came out, people thought it was like really good, but it actually wasn't. It was absolute bollocks. And then the series came out, and that movie kind of like almost became beta canon in a sense, because the the series rewrote everything. So that's kind of like how I see TOS. And that's why I really don't listen to people when they start going on about the Klingons so early on in Enterprise.
The funny thing is, the you watch like whether it be Next Gen, Voyager, Enterprise, or those first few series, they did really try to stay somewhat. They mentioned like TOS, and they tried to stay connected to whatever things it might have established, even though it had its inconsistencies. I was actually just thinking was that I thought there was an episode where they were introduced to the Klingons in Enterprise later on. That's why when they came up at the end, and I thought, oh, I thought it was like season 2 or 3 where they showed up and they introduced them, but I guess it was right within the first. Within the first couple of episodes, I guess. I it's been so long since I've seen the series, but because I remember they were introduced to the Klingons and they had trouble understanding them. There was a language barrier.
Yeah. That was Broken Bow, wasn't it? Broken Bow, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
That was that was the pilot episode of
Enterprise.
Oh, what's the pilot episode? Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah,
all
that
right.
was the pilot.
But no, I'm one of those Trek fans that did have a bit of conniption fit when they introduced the Klingons early.
I did too. I'm right with you. I'm right with you too there, because I was like, what? I was like, I had to consult my Star Trek encyclopedia and stuff, and I was like, yeah, there's something wrong here and stuff. I'm right there with you too. I was like, oh wow, the writers really kind of did something there, that they introduced the Klingons in previously before in this series than what we've known in TOS. How they how they talked about humans' first encounter with the Klingons. It didn't go so well.
And I know they did address the change in appearance. I know there was that whole.
Yeah, that was in season 4.
Which I thought was kind of I thought that was actually very clever that they did that.
You know what's funny about that, Phil, about the Klingons? We got a little bit of what Worf said in, was it Trials and Tribulations?
We don't talk with outsiders.
He just said we don't talk about it with outsiders. And, they were just wondering, like Bashir and O'Brien. It was like, what happened? Some genetic mutation, genetic engineering, or something like that. But he wouldn't talk about it. And then in this series, they addressed that, which made sense because through TOS era, the Klingons did not have ridges. They didn't have like the long hair and stuff. And it was like, okay, now they came around to continuity and say, this explains why, the Klingons look like this. And it's like, oh, but then they said it will only last for how many generations? They said like a couple of generations. It will last until...
Was it 2 or 3? I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 generations, but I actually do like that they explain all about the eugenics thing with the Klingons. And it I think in a way Enterprise was created to explain a lot of things, and from the off that they wanted to explain about what happened to the Klingons to kind of like, I don't know, like put like basically explain the Klingons going from looking relatively human to looking how they do now. And I think it was done very well. And I mean, all right, fair enough. You lot were far too loyal, if you ask me, to TOS. You lot pitched a hissy fit when you saw the Klingons in Broken Boat, but you all know my opinion about, I mean, I grew up with with TOS, and it made me hate Star Trek, you know, but it was just because I like consistency in things, and there was no consistency with it. I do have a deep respect for TOS. I do, because it, like I've always said, it was the birth of a legend. But that doesn't take away the fact that, yeah, I mean, William Shatner completely fucking ruined it. I'm just gonna say it, you know.
We know
he
that.
absolutely ruined it. I mean, but you know,
Just remember this, Katie. Remember
like
this.
Enterprise.
Remember this. Enterprise came out during a time that they didn't think about stuff that we are, you know, talking about, like the consistency and continuity and stuff. Writing back in the 60s, that you know, they didn't, you know, the writers did not even think nothing like that and stuff. And it's like,
but this is why people who worked on Trek back then, even people who worked on TOS, are basically, I've heard people that have worked on TOS saying the same as me. And that's why they're hoping that Strange New Worlds can basically rewrite it and add consistency to the TOS era. And, you know, I mean, all right, people are pitching a hissy fit about Strange New Worlds and Discovery because of the technology and how it looks. But that's only graphics. That, you know, if you, I mean, all right, Discovery was a completely different thing because, you know, it had the spore drive and it was a new age ship for that era, you know. But taking out Discovery itself, the technology of that era, and you know that the technology in Enterprise, it is consistent with the technology of TOS, you know, and it's all graphics and things like that, and people don't seem to realize that yes, things have been modernized, but they still have that classic look to it. And like, you know, I mean, Enterprise was the first Warp 5 ship, and that's a big deal, you know, and that they wanted to they wanted to do something special with Enterprise, and that's exactly what they did. And all right, so people pitched a hissy fit about the Klingons turning up. Personally, like I say, I don't give a crap. I like it. And I mean, even right down to the opening credits song, you know, I love it. When I watched the episode today, I was singing. I will admit that I was singing. I don't care if I made it rain. You know, I'd be quite happy to go outside and dance in the rain, as you know. But it, you know, it is something special, and they ruined Enterprise at how it ended. But the people in Enterprise and the characters, I love the relationships that they have. Don't get me wrong, I really do want to slap to Paul, you know, but the fact that they were like the first to go out there and interact with new alien species, it was a special moment. And, you know, this episode is a perfect example. You don't know what you're stepping into when you make first contact with another person, let alone another race, you know, and that, you know, those pebble things that they stuck their hands in, it was a holographic simulation. You know, he was introduced to it as a game. He thought it was just a way to connect, you know, like reading each other's emotions, kind of like a telepathic link. You know, if he thought for 1 minute that there was anything dangerous about it, he wouldn't have done it, and he would have done it in the most respectful way. But with Trip, he is a very big people pleaser, and he likes to take things on face value, and he doesn't like to imagine that he would be outright lied to, especially from someone seemingly so sweet. And that is a perfect example of like early era Trek. You know, you've got like the TOS crew, that they were almost paranoid in meeting new races in a way a lot of the time, whereas the Enterprise crew, they weren't. They took a different approach. You know, they wanted to make this contact. They wanted to experience new things. They wanted to be the representatives of humanity. And in all honesty, Trip is one of the best people for alien species to meet, because he is humanity. You know, he embodies so much of what humanity is supposed to be. You know, he doesn't have a bad bone in his body, and he's all right, sometimes overly trusting. And you know, he was like in childlike awe of this holography. You know, I mean, could you imagine like meeting, like even going to another country, you know, and helping them with something, and you see this, and you come up with this like holography, and everything in it feels real, smells real. You know, your senses are just playing up with you, and that would throw anyone for a loop, even the most highly trained diplomats. And that's the kind of side of humanity that we see in Enterprise. You know, and it is a beautiful thing.
You know, what you said, you're looking at all the positive and, joyful thing about it. I intend to look at it in this way. You remember in, what's that, Q-Who? The episode in Star Trek in the season 2 where he flung the Enterprise D in the path of that first cube. And, I'm not talking about the whole episode and everything else, but at the end when Picard was sitting with Guinan, he said, maybe Q did the right thing for the wrong reasons, kicking our and stuff. It seems like,
you're breaking up.
Yeah, it's that time of day.
Oops, we lost
But
him.
no, I completely get what Travis
rebooting.
was saying. You know, I do understand what Travis was saying. And I mean, I'm one of these people where I am very cautious in meeting new people. And I think I would be very cautious meeting a new species. But, you know, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. And, you know, the Borg is a completely different thing. Yes, you are going to meet, like, eventually when humanity go out into the universe, and if we do start meeting alien species, like when we like go out there into the cosmos, not all of them are going to be nice, but the way we present ourselves, if we present ourselves in a positive way, in essence, all right, fair enough, we could be armed to the teeth, on our starships. But if we present ourselves in all the glory of humanity, of what we are supposed to be, and like Trip, try to see the good, present ourselves humbly, nicely, if it turns out that these aliens that we meet are evil incarnate, then we've kind of lured them into a false sense of security in a way, because they think, oh, look at these humans, they're so sweet and innocent, and they don't know what they're doing, and they don't know what we're all about. We're going to take them over. They're going to have a fucking shock, because humanity, the embodiment of humanity may be understanding and harmony and all that lot, but we are ready to defend ourselves. And we do have a bitch streak in our genes, and it's not just the women, it is the men, especially gay men. No offense to you and Dave Travis, but oh, that Katie, woo!
There's something particular about this, about what we're talking about. If y'all remember throughout the first and second season, they, things really changed through the third season. At the end of the second season, where they was going into the Expanse, Archer's demeanor had changed. And going into the third season, we seen a whole new level of how they're personality change and how they view things. When they got back to Earth in the 4th season, he was on a bridge of, what's that, Columbia?
Mhm.
And, he was going over some of their, over the technical stuff. And he, Arthur, basically was like, reading off some of the stuff that he's seeing and stuff. And Captain Hernandez was like, it's all, based on your recommendation and stuff, and it's like he said something to her in that when they came back home, that he had an argument with Captain Jeffries about arming their ships with some very powerful weapons and stuff, and he said he didn't want to take he didn't want to be in command of a warship when meeting new species and stuff. But then he realized in this episode, he was like, after the Zindi incident and they encountered the Zindis and species that were far more powerful than them and they had better equipped ships, he said we could have used those weapons and probably a lot more. And just like he just said it out loud in front of Captain Hernandez and stuff. And it's like he come to realize that, the naivete of, thinking that the galaxy is full of, benevolent and nice species, is one thing. But if you're, it's like you can present yourself as a friendly folk and stuff and everything, but you got to make sure that, those that you encounter understand that you would defend yourself with terminal intensity if need be.
Well, many alien species in Star Trek have learned that the hard way when it comes to humanity. I mean, the amount of times that starships like Starfleet have been underestimated by different species that they've encountered. And even when it comes to the Borg, yes, that they are one of the most formidable opponents that humanity ever faced in Trek. But even they, weren't expecting like Picard or Janeway, and especially Janeway, because some of the species that humans encounter in Star Trek, they think that we're pushovers because we're so nice. We will help anyone, and when these other species decide to try and take or destroy, they are very unpleasantly surprised by what we are willing to. But well, I say we, but by what the humans in Trek are willing to do, and that is what. I mean, to be honest, I think that like Starfleet have got it right in the sense of, always be prepared. Arm those ships and be ready to defend. But like, especially the crew of the Enterprise, because they are like one of the first. And I'm talking about the NX-01. Like Archer's crew, that they are like the first really to go out there and explore. Yes. And they go the furthest, and they become kind of like they are like the first contact with humanity for a lot of species, and they are underestimated so much. In a way, so much more than Picard's crew or Burnham's crew or Janeway's crew, that they are underestimated so much. And even especially like with the Zindi, regardless of the limitations of when it comes to technology on Enterprise, they always come through, and even in the harshest of circumstances, when they're basically on their last legs, it's that human ingenuity and fast thinking and thinking on your feet and looking outside the box to try and find other ways of dealing with things to get out of a sticky situation that is one thing that humanity is very good at, and that is embodied within Trek, but especially I think in Enterprise, because it is such a diverse crew, but they're all very similar in that way. They are such nice people, apart from T'Pol. You know, they are such nice people, and
I have thoughts.
you know, but they are very quick thinking. That they think on their feet. They use their intuition, and it's something that T'Pol is always pulling them up about. You know, and like that is not going to work. That is not the way to do things. And then like Trip and Archer are just like, hold my beer, you know, basically. And that is one thing that I love about the crew of Enterprise is, regardless of the limitations on technology and knowledge, they always come through and they always prove T'Pol wrong, you know, and the Vulcans in general.
You know, this episode introduced something that I'm not sure if anybody really paid attention to. I don't know if Dave or Phil or UKD paid attention to, but D7 battle cruiser.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We seen a D7 battle cruiser, but it was not cloaked because the Klingons did not have cloaking technology at that time. The Romulans did, but they didn't. The Klingons didn't. You know, it was pretty interesting to see that, you know, they kept that, you know, little continuity, because we know that Klingons eventually get cloaking technology from the Romulans, but, you know, that was during the TOS era and stuff and everything. But it was pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting to see, you know, a Klingon that, you know, normally Klingon ships. Not saying that all Klingon ships always travel under cloak, but, you know, I mean, their captains are, you know, paranoid about things. So most Klingon, I say, ships will be cloaked by the 24th century. They will travel under cloak. But it was pretty interesting to see that, you know, they didn't say anything about cloaking technology in this particular episode and stuff, because I was like, you know what? I like that. And Phil,
well, can we just take a minute just to appreciate the Klingon battle cruiser, because that is exquisite. I'm sorry, but I absolutely love the Klingon ships. I think that they are. Oh, I love the D7. I really do. It is beautiful. I mean, I love Klingon ships anyway, and I you know, the D7 it's so cute. You know, it has like this cuteness about it, and I saw that when I watched this episode. So I saw the D7, and I was just like, oh, hello, you know, because it it's so cute, and I really do like that era of Klingon ships. And all right, I love the more modern ones as well, like more 24th century going into the 25th century, you know. But I really love the D7. It's so cute.
I would never have thought that to describe a Klingon ship.
I know that's pretty interesting to describe a Klingon ship. Real quick, Phil, you said that you had a thought about something about T'Pol just a few minutes ago.
Oh, I was just, boy, when she started talking, I mean, I was, they really evolved her character just in 4 years. I know they did, but, and I know this was very early on, but I was like, okay, first of all, for a Vulcan, she is showing some emotion here, and it's almost, dare I say, sarcasm, which almost seems a little un-Vulcan-like, a little bit.
She has some good lines. She has some good lines.
But she did. But I'm thinking, how did you get a job on this yet? Like your attitude is just. Oh.
See, where we as humans see it in one perspective. Vulcans, for them to act like that, that's normal for them. You know, T'Pol is behaving like a true Vulcan. She's there to offer guidance, as she said, to a crew that is unready to, you know, go into deep space. She's there to offer logic, which sometimes they often, you know, they do follow her logic sometime. but then
A
they
good
go.
dose of attitude, though. I mean, come on.
I'm sorry, but Vulcans may suppress their emotions, but they do not suppress their goddamn arrogance. I'm sorry, but they are the most arrogant species in Trek, in my
kind of
opinion.
like that back in the day, but yeah.
Oh, they get all high and mighty about their logic, and we have mastered our emotions. We don't let our emotions control us. And it's like, hold on, look. You may not let your emotions control you, but you certainly let your fucking arrogance control you. I'm sorry, but Vulcans, they really annoy me. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'll take a Klingon over a Vulcan any day because at least the Klingons have fucking passion.
But
They're a race of
Klingons may
warriors.
have passion, but they don't have a lot of common sense because just looking at the D7, look at that neck. That is just, I mean, just a photon torpedo at the right angle. It just severs the ship in half.
But look how cute that is. Look how cute that is, though.
Well, at least with the bird of prey, it's got a little bit more neck to it, a little more girth.
It is a very
interesting. For fuck's sake, Dave. You had to go there. You had to go there.
I when I was thinking, I'm just like, yeah, let's see here.
But no, I do like Birds of Prey, and that was just adorable. I don't care what anyone says.
Actually, the moment it showed up, the first thing I thought was, well, they really kind of made it scary in that moment when it kind of. There's a moment there, I forget where in the episode, but where it showed up, and it was like they kind of made it very imposing.
When they intercepted the Klingon ship.
Yeah.
That's what
I forgot. Oh, I got something better.
Like that, go for they are designed to, like you just said, to entice their adversaries or any other ships that this is a warship. It's not to be like they fire torpedoes at Enterprise for approaching them, and the captain's like, "How dare you approach my vessel?" It's like you don't approach my vessel unless you actually want to start to get into a phaser fight or disruptor fight with them. And we don't know the strength of course that D7 could have taken out Enterprise, because Enterprise was greatly undergunned. And
it's still yeah.
Oh yeah, the neck of the 1701, that was also like very skinny, and I mean we actually saw it in Star Trek Beyond, how crawl ships just right through the neck and just separated the saucer from the rest of the ship. But like with the bird of prey, I mean, it still has that neck, but it's got a little more.
I like the bird of prey. Yeah.
Like I said, a little more.
I love that.
And I remember there's two different styles of birds of prey.
I remember. Go ahead.
I was gonna say there's two styles of birds of prey. One of them is a Prel class, which is very small. It's about the size of the Defiant, and then there was the Cavort class, which is I think almost it is about the size of the Enterprise. D is a big ship. So
I think those are a little bigger than the Enterprise D.
The Cavort class.
Yeah, I think they are slightly bigger. I think probably going by like mass and like if you go around the ship with square footage, they probably are around about the same. But because of the style of the bird of prey compared to Starfleet ships, I think they seem bigger. I think they're bigger, but they're more streamlined than like the Enterprise D.
I remember ages ago, I never forgot this. This was quite a long time ago because they designed the bird of prey for Star Trek 3.
Yes.
And I remember hearing about how they wanted a newer and scarier Klingon ship than just their regular ship, and how the design, he got the idea from seeing a football player wearing football pads, and that's why he wanted to bulk up those two big sections on the top. He got the idea from seeing football pads, and to just sort of make it look like large shoulders. That was like so that was yeah.
Oh, which one's that, Dave?
What's that?
Which one's that?
This is like the battle cruiser. It's from next generation. Is based on the information on from the Franklin Mint. Just
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Very nice.
Nice.
But
And
yeah,
you know what?
that's also kind of like it's the Star Trek 4 version, pretty much too.
Oh yeah, in Star Trek 4
Right.
version, that was actually a smaller bird of prey. That was a Pearl class. You would think it'd be a bigger, but it was like,
Isn't it the same one from 3?
huh?
Isn't it the same one from 3?
Yeah.
Star Trek
Yeah.
4, 3 and 4 would be the same ship, right? Yeah.
Yes.
On the outside, at least. The inside, they
Yeah,
never really
yeah.
explained
The
that.
Oh, they
That bridge
always
wasn't anything like it was in Star Trek 3.
apparently,
No,
according
it
to
certainly
Paramount,
did not.
even the Enterprise bridge, apparently to separate the movies, they insisted that the bridge for every episode or for every movie looked different.
Hmm.
They could
I hate
not
it.
have a consistent, and that's why they made these little changes to the bridge in every movie.
I
Because, I
was
mean,
so annoyed with that, you know.
Because
No,
well,
that,
with
again, that I can't get on board with that.
but say reading up on like some of the beta canon, the Deck 1, the bridge module can actually separate and then be completely replaced,
Oh,
which they kind of did that in, I think it was the novel. I don't remember what novel number it was, but it was Rogue Saucer, when they just installed the new bridge on the D prior to Generations, and someone hijacked the Enterprise.
You guys know in this particular, not this particular episode, but like in Enterprise.
Katie, take 2.
Jesus fucking Christ, you know.
suddenly in
Katie keep
Australia.
flipping upside down.
Everyone's having technical issues. I mean, Phil, I even saw you kind of bulk at your camera just zooming in like suddenly
My
there
camera
earlier.
has been
Why
behaving
did it just
so
come on?
well recently as well. I don't understand.
Here's a little Trek trivia. Did y'all know the inside of the NX-01, the Enterprise, was based off of them actually spending time in American nuclear submarines?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And they, you know, the producers and the producers and stuff, they wanted something that feel back, something has to, how they put it. Michael Okuda now said they wanted something to feel that it was more, early, 20th, 21st century, 22nd century, but still look like, a human type vessel without being so much in the future and stuff. And they wanted it to be they spent time on submarines to get that feel, that look, in the gray area. But go ahead, Katie.
Actually, it wasn't just based on because I've actually done a little bit of research on this last year. Was it last year or the year before when I first got my homework to watch Enterprise? I can't remember. I think it was the year before. But
I was probably
it's been a while.
When I was actually given the homework, the official DT homework, to watch Enterprise.
That was Twitter Space.
Yeah, that was on Twitter Spaces. But I actually did a little bit of research because I thought, do you know what? That the interior of the NX-01, it reminds me of something that I've seen on TV, and I was looking into things and I couldn't find anything. But then I was actually watching NCIS at the time, and like doing a rewatch of it, and there was an episode where they went on a submarine, but then there was an episode as well where they went on one of the aircraft carriers. I can't remember the name of it, but when I looked into it, they actually designed the interior of the Enterprise based on a mix between the US Navy subs and the Navy ships. Because if you think on the NX-01, down, I don't know if it's on all of the corridors, but on some of the corridors you've got to like step over like a lip to get from one section to another. In some places you have to do that on US Navy ships as well. And there's a couple of places where there's like like where the sections connect, and there's like a small lip that you've got to like step over. It's not everywhere on the Enterprise, but in some places, and that's actually more the Navy ships than the subs, and it's kind of like a mixture of designs between the two.
Okay.
That's right down to like the structure and the shape of the corridors, and like the quarters and the mess and things like that. And at the back of the bridge as well, where they've got that like table with the screen and then all the screens, that is more, I think that's more the sub side of it than the ship. I can't remember, but yeah, I did a lot of looking into it, and yeah, it's like a mix between the two with the subs and the ships.
That's pretty fascinating. Thank you for telling us, Katie. That's sharing with us. Wow.
So yeah, I may not know a lot about, you know, like episode names and things like that, but I do my research sometimes, and yeah.
It's all good.
You know, I mean, I can give you the basics of how a transporter system works, you know, like I can dumb it down for a 5-year-old, you know, but ask me an episode name and it's almost guaranteed I won't know what it is.
See, with Enterprise.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, with Enterprise, I have a hard time with title names, but Next Gen, DSI, and Voyager, I can 90% of the time I can guarantee I can give you the name of it within 10-15 seconds or less.
No, I'm the polar opposite.
I'm right there with you, Dave.
My knowledge is that intimidating.
I mean, yes.
But can you quote all the rules of acquisition like Travis can?
No, Travis has got me there.
You know, if you want to like, you know, face Klingons, you got to speak like Klingons. You got to know the Klingons. If you want to engage with the Ferengis, you got to think like the Ferengis. You got to talk their talk. You got to, you know, you got to understand, like Cisco, he learned how to use the rules of acquisition to, you know, get one over on Quark once in a while and stuff. You know, and it's like, you got to, not, I won't call them adversary, but you got to know your opponents, you know, their likes and dislikes, and know how to talk with them and stuff, you know, because I remember in was that The Way of the Warriors, when the Klingons was invading Cardassia, and he said, who was it? It was Cisco said the only ones that truly know how to deal with the Klingons are the Klingons, you know. But, you know, I mean, you just got to know how to really talk to them, because Klingons, when they speak loudly and proudly and stuff. And yes,
and
they
passionately.
You know, I mean, it's one of those things and stuff. But yeah.
I would get on with the Klingons so well. I mean, I don't know if I've said this live on air before, but you know, I'm quite open to say this, because I know that my ex will not be watching because she hates Star Trek. But I've been watching Star Trek, and it was a very like Klingon heavy episode, and she decided to start an argument with me, and I was like really calm throughout the argument, but then she said something, I can't remember what it is, and I shouted at her, and I actually called her a patak. Yeah. And you know, I call her something else as well, and I just cannot remember what it is, but it ended the argument, it really did end the argument because she was just like, what the hell language was that? And my daughter, bearing in mind she was like 3 years old at the time, she turned on and she went, it's Klingon. Jack was like, how the hell do you know that?
You
She's like,
remember
I like
this?
Star Trek.
Patak. That's a Klingon swear word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, like, it ended the argument because she was just like, to our daughter, she was just like, how the hell do you know that? And Dylan's just like, I like Star Trek and I like the Klingons. And I'm like, good girl. But yeah, it was really funny. But yeah, it just came out. It just literally, it flopped out of my mouth and I couldn't stop it. You know, it was just one of those things. It could never be repeated. But no, yeah, I would get on with the Klingons so well, and I would actually probably make a good Klingon.
You remember, Dave, you said earlier when Trip was in decontamination, and when he came on board the Zerillian ship, I like how they actually show that, you know, how will you put it? He looked like he was like, basically say he was tripping balls. But it was showing like very slow motion. Like, you know, it was like it was like he was on acid or something. I've never been on acid or anything, but it's just like this guy, he was just really, he was really stressing out about, like, you know, he just could not understand why, you know, I guess everything around him looked dazed. And it was pretty interesting to know that this and the Code Archer, we have a great deal of experience with alien species. All he needed was, how was that, an hour sleep?
3 hours.
3 hours?
Stubborn.
Oh, right. It is like he didn't listen to them. He wanted to get right to work, but yet he didn't take
he needed to rest for an hour. Yeah, he was 3 hours to
decontaminate.
Go through decontamination. Bleh.
Just call it decon. I call it decon because, you know, sometimes I can't brain and form words, so I just call it decon.
That's as simple as you can.
Do you know what? I love those memes. I can't stand Galron. I really can't. You know, I want to like slice his neck with a battler, but you know it. You know, like, I would do it with a smile on my lips, a cackle in my throat, and a song in my heart. You know, I would, because I, you know, that's probably why I'd make a good Klingon. But you know, I love those memes, and his look really is of judgment. So I really do love that. His look really is of judgment.
Sorry, that was my fault.
What was that? What was your fault?
Oh, I don't know if you heard. I don't know if you heard that. I turned on my phone and it just echoed what for a moment. So I don't know if you heard that, but.
How dare you cause
I would love to hear Phil's intake more on this before Dave, you know, concludes the show for the night. I'd like to hear your more intake.
Oh, I don't know what more I could add. It's just I honestly, I don't have a whole lot of deep thoughts about this one. It was definitely a good character building episode, considering it was early on in the series. So you can tell they were still getting a feel for the characters and who they were, and it felt very I don't know, like you could tell the writing has been slowly changing since the Next Gen days, and so there was a certain feel to writing as it went through Deep Space Nine and Voyager and then Enterprise. So it felt like the sort of a succession of that. But it felt like a very lighthearted episode, but it was definitely sort of a character building episode. I was wondering what there was a lot at the beginning with unless it was just to show how stubborn Trip was, the fact that he when he got there, he didn't want to go lie down. He wanted to just get to work right away, despite whoever he felt. And then when he did get sick, it was like, no, now I want off here. I'm not going to do it. It was just being really stubborn through it. And I'm like, make up your mind.
that's the stumbling of of what we see that in Star Trek. You don't take he didn't take their advice into account about he just wanted to get right to work, but he didn't listen to them because they have more experience with aliens.
Yeah.
He didn't listen to them about their experience and stuff. Like, he just wanted to jump right into his work and stuff. And it was like it's recommended, because he had to go through a different alien, environment, And what was he saying about that grass grows right out their food?
No,
Grows right out.
no, it is. I actually wrote it down. Is Vulcan grass green?
That was funny.
But she never answered the question.
She never answered that question, but we know the answer to that question. We've seen what Vulcan looks like.
It's brown.
Is there actually any grass on Vulcan?
What's a
Because
desert
I've never
planet?
seen
So-
any. I've never seen grass on Vulcan.
What was that, Travis? You're breaking up again. I don't know what we need to get him a good Bluetooth headset.
Yes.
No, he's not wearing a headset at all. He's not wearing earphones or anything,
Good
and it's because
question,
That's why
his phones.
Yeah, we need to actually get him some Bluetooth to hook up to the phone.
I was saying, when Trip visited to Paul's mother's house, was there any green grass? Did
No,
anybody ever notice?
Not that I recall.
So is Vulcan just a rocky, dusty planet then? Because that's
Pretty much. It's a
the only time I've
desert
ever seen
planet.
it was TOS, the big dun dun dun, dun in the beginning of Star Trek 1,
Yeah.
the motion picture, and I guess 3. But yeah, it's all like a rocky planet. So
Yeah, and even
and then
2009, yeah, it was a desert planet essentially.
yeah, and I seem to remember even in the newer 3 movies there. Felt like it was all underground almost. I think I don't remember even there was anything outside.
Oh, there was when the planet was being obliterated by Nero's
Was it? Okay.
drill.
I
Yeah,
have seen it. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. It seems to me I remember
yeah,
a
lot of rocky, deserty.
Yeah.
But it just kind of goes into that an editorial that I wrote back in 1995 for the Star Trek BBS when that was the thing on the internet back then. People were having a conniption fit about a black Vulcan. I was just like,
Really?
Maybe not all of them were able to live underground, and
Wow.
just like Africa, I'd say that the species adapted with darker skin and all that.
Yeah.
They had
I
some
might still have a hard
Pacific.
copy of that somewhere, but
I mean, people pitched a hissy fit when there was a Klingon on the bridge of the Enterprise on Picard's crew. People pitched a hissy fit when there was a Russian, a Jap, and a woman of color on the bridge of the Enterprise. And it's just like, oh, for crying out loud, grow up.
It was the
Trek has been woke since 1966.
But and then when people realize that Michael Dorn is a man of color, they were just like, what the hell? And then like other actors, who played Klingons. That is so true. That comment there, everybody, that is so true.
He's an attractive man, still is.
I wasn't going to touch that subject. I would just kind of leave that alone.
Okay.
No, honestly, I put this comment on for a reason, and I really do think that we should do an episode count for all the times Trip was in his underwear. Now, I know that, like, we see them in their underwear a hell of a lot because of, like, decon and stuff, but I swear Trip has the most underwear scenes in the entire, like, Trek. Like, out of every single season, every single series, I think Trip has the most underwear scenes.
Well, funny you mention that because, like, you and I talked about 2 weeks ago, figuring out all the episodes that we're going to do for March, and at the end of the month, so on the 31st, we're going to talk about another Enterprise episode, Acquisition, when Trip's running around the ship in his.
Oh,
Exactly. You know, it's
I
like,
replied to that,
don't get me
Katie, by
wrong.
the way.
I mean, don't get
What
me
was that,
wrong.
Phil?
You know,
I replied to that too, Katie. So.
yes, you did. But you know, don't get me wrong. Trip has got a very decent derriere, but you know, and that is said like completely impartially. You know, I say what I see, but I could really do without the front view. You know, because no, I mean, there was just no need for that. There really wasn't. You know, he could have found some pants somewhere. You know, he could have found a uniform. But like for nearly the entire episode, he was running around in his freaking underwear. And it was just like, no. Please, no. You know.
I'll say it again when we watch the episode, but this is one time where the writers did it right, because of course they brought in the Ferengi before we made first contact with the Ferengi, but they were not mentioned by name, so they didn't know that they were Ferengi until Code and the Enterprise encountered them in the last outpost.
I like that they name drop a new acquisition that they, in the rules of acquisition was acquisition 23. I like how they dropped that one.
Which is oh, come on, my Rain Man, you cannot disappoint me now.
Nothing more important than your health, except for money.
Yay.
Yeah, but there's the Moopsie. Wow, we're running out. We're about 5 minutes left, so.
Moopsie. Sorry, I love Moopsie.
I know we definitely we this is the most like technically based on the episode that we've done in a while, which is it's okay because it stayed on the Trek track. So there's that, and that Sassy is just being so sassy in the backyard.
But no, can we just like share a moment of appreciation for how well written this episode was? Because I think that it was handled very well. And even right down to, I mean, I've lived with a pregnant woman, you know, I would hate to live with a pregnant man because that'd just be, you know. But, you know,
did you notice Trip crying when they were sitting at the dinner table?
Yeah.
Yes, I think in the last second I was going to go back.
And you know, it wasn't mentioned. It wasn't even discussed, and that's what I mean by this episode was so well done because you know just that scene, you know, it was just so lovely. And then he's just like, I want more of this. But, you know, when Dr. Phlox just says, you never know, you may be putting those nipples to good use soon enough. And then that guy walks back in with the food. And it's just like, oh, holy shit.
Even Archer,
that was a funny moment.
Archer got in a couple of lines, too. He kind of looked down. He's like, oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's like I can't pick on him.
Man, it's like
I don't know if congratulations are in order, but you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, oh. But Trip handled the news really well.
Postnatal responsibilities.
Yeah. But no, I love Phlox, and he was lovely in this episode. And I mean, that scene with the lift in engineering. You know, like the way he was going all like maternal, you know, it was just, I can relate to that, you know, like getting all, you know, like health and safety, but you know, it was just so well done. And then like Trip realized what he was doing. And, you know, it was a beautiful moment, but I mean, when like before the like going back to the meal that they were having, and then it was just like, because Ryan as well, like I'm an engineer. I've done all this like my career. I had no intention of being a single mother. Just like that is just beautiful. That is a beautiful moment. And he didn't even think twice. He just like I had no intention of being a single mother. Not a single.
You know what? I was always wondering the food on the table. He said chicken tetrazzini. I was like, oh, that sounds so good. Chicken tetrazzini. Oh, I'm like, and then it says had those breadsticks. I'm like, oh, this food is real. I'm like, y'all got look like y'all got some good food on there. Y'all had some.
Oh yeah.
And then, but earlier in the episode, what a snob was that T'Pol was for the food that they were serving and all that.
Oh yeah, like.
Oh, didn't you just want to tip that soup over her head? I'm sorry, but I mean, screw slapping her across the face with a wet fish. Slap her across the face with her own freaking soup.
Oh.
She really pissed me off in this episode. But do you know when she was just like, when she was like, like you was there for 3 days, when she was like really like being a bitch to Trip in sickbay. I actually kind of agree in a way with Jeff what he said earlier in the comments, and that she seemed a bit jealous. Because
Vulcan jealous? That is hard to say. I could never place jealousy on a Vulcan.
Oh, I can place jealousy on a Vulcan.
Oh,
they just hide it freaking well. I've
they
seen
just suppress their emotions. They're nothing. They don't have them. They just learn to suppress them.
Yeah,
exactly.
They suppress. They have tried. They try to. Their ultimate goal is to be like Data. Data is everything that a Vulcan would want to be. He has strength, but he doesn't have. He has smart. He's very intelligent, but he does not have any emotions. I remember when him and Spock was talking in Unification, and he said, he said something to Data that you are everything that a Vulcan wants to be. With no emotional. Handicap.
Yeah.
And
what was Data's reply though too? Was that the fact that his Data's whole goal was to become human, to experience emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, I understand the reasons why Vulcans suppress their emotions. They're a hell of a lot more volatile than human emotions, but it's just sad that they have to do that and that they don't get to experience that without.
We saw that in a particular Enterprise episode. You remember, Dave?
Yes.
A ship full of Vulcans practice. They were ostracized and they was cast out because they chose to participate in emotional being and stuff instead of having logic and stuff. They wasn't practicing what's their teachings and stuff and everything else. And then we saw what happens when a Vulcan does not meditate for an hour, because Vulcans all meditate for 1 hour at night before they go to bed. If they do not do that, according to Paul and what we saw, that is the consequences of them not practicing. I can't call it. I don't know if I call it a religion, but their
philosophy.
It was their life path.
But I know
it was their life path.
Yeah.
But we are out of time for this week. Thanks to everyone who was watching us just jabber on. Be sure and like and subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing. That helps us out to expand things and whatnot. But next week we're gonna speak about Data and all that. We're gonna talk about Worf's very bad day. Parallels when he's bopping over
that
different.
Episode.
Oh.
Yeah, saying Data actually has blue eyes in this episode in one of the realities. But it's a good episode. It's definitely a strong Worf episode, in my opinion. So we're going to talk about that next week. And after that, we're going to go to... What was that?
Oh, well, I was sorry. I was filling in a book. Worf's really terrible, really bad day.
Yeah. But we're going to go invasive procedures for DS9. a really good Voyager episode, Body and Soul. That's a
Mhm.
very big Doctor 7 episode there.
Mhm.
And then we're going to go to the darker days of Next Generation, first season episode, The Naked Now. I mean, Data gets a little giggity with Tasha. And after that, going to the aforementioned Acquisition to round out the month of March. And then for the first Monday in April to celebrate Katie's birthday, since we don't have it on the exact day, we're actually going to go talk about the movie First Contact. And that's going to, I've made the decision. That's a Monday. I'm going to skip my AA meeting for that day, and we're just going to do a technically Trek XL, just however long it takes, we'll go for it. And Saints instead of like breaking it up in 2 parts and lose our momentum, because who knows what'll happen. So, well, we know what happens.
Well, yeah, and you're celebrating my birthday at the same time as well.
Exactly.
My birthday is First Contact Day, people, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to stay clear of the tequila.
I hope so, Dave.
I do too. Yeah, because
we'll have some Diet Pepsi for
because on
birthday.
Give you a Shirley
week.
I'll get a big thing of Diet Pepsi and have some Diet Pepsi.
Yeah, because last week
I'll just
Tuesday,
have my anti-homicide juice.
Got my 9-month chip.
Nice.
Yay! Congrats, darling.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And say just 2.5 more months. Well, a little less than 3 months still. Say I get my first big heavy metal chip. So, yay!
Hey.
I am so proud of you, sweetheart.
Oh, thank you. It's appreciated, and these rooms I've been going to have been helping me keep sober, and that's what I'm going to do right now. Is head to one of them right now. So, until next week, everybody. Signing off.
Take care.
Take care, everybody.